A very warm welcome to all the listeners of MedSynapse GastroShorts podcast series. GastroShorts focuses on the latest clinical and research developments in the field of gastroenterology. Today's episode focuses on the trial, clinical outcomes in COVID-19 and cirrhosis, a systematic review and meta-analysis of observational studies published recently in the BMJ Open Gastroenterology. COVID-19 continues to pose a significant healthcare challenge throughout the world. Comorbidities, like diabetes and hypertension, are associated with higher mortality risks. However, the effect of cirrhosis on COVID-19 outcomes has yet to be systematically assessed. Thus, a systematic literature review was conducted to examine all primary studies reporting mortality of COVID-19 in patients with established cirrhosis. PubMed and M-based databases were searched, and the study was reported in accordance with the preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis guidelines. Studies that reported cirrhosis mortality alongside a non-cirrhotic comparator group were considered for meta-analysis and assessment of all-cause mortality. The risk of bias was assessed using the Quality and Prognostic Score (QUIPS) risk of bias assessment instrument for prognostic factor studies template. 63 studies were identified, reporting clinical outcomes in patients with cirrhosis and concomitant COVID-19. Meta-analysis of cohort studies, which report a non-cirrhotic comparator, yielded a pooled mortality rate of 2.48. Studies were assessed for consideration of risk of bias under 6 domains, including study participation, study attrition, prognostic factor measurement, outcome measurement, study confounding, and statistical analysis and reporting. These were scored as low, medium, or high risk of bias within each domain. Overall, 10 out of 63 studies were found to be at low risk of bias across all domains. Understanding the impact of concomitant cirrhosis in patients with COVID-19 is clinically important for several reasons. From a clinical perspective, it would inform decision-making on day-to-day treatment decisions, escalation, and resuscitation status, as well as on how to direct resources effectively. From a public health perspective, it would help shape healthcare policy making regarding targeting of interventions, such as vaccination prioritization and shielding. This is particularly important in resource-limited settings. This study provides evidence to support targeted interventions aimed at protecting patients with cirrhosis from COVID-19. Healthcare professionals should be aware of the associated heightened COVID-19 mortality in patients with cirrhosis and the potential risk of associated cirrhotic decompensation. However, the associated mortality risk in cirrhosis does not exclude other common comorbidities, such as cardiovascular disease or diabetes. Therefore, all cirrhotic patients should still be considered for mechanical ventilation or escalation to intensive care unit on an individual basis. Some of the limitations of this study include the heterogeneity of study design and characteristics, the heterogeneity of the comparator group, and the relatively small sample size. Although steps were taken to prevent multiple reporting of patient cases, it is possible that reported cases are also included in registry-based studies and may be reported concurrently. Conclusively, it can be said that the study effectively suggests an increased COVID-19 mortality rate that can be seen in cirrhotic patients as compared to non-cirrhotic patients. Furthermore, this mortality is likely higher in those with more advanced cirrhosis. With this, we conclude today's GastroShorts podcast. Thank you for listening.